Hi everyone, and welcome to Literary Gladiators. This is Charlie, and also a drummer, musical director on the show. I'm going to do my take on a book that I read, which was, all I can say is wow. Um, Welcome to Literary Gladiators, and this is, as Josh would always say, this is a show where we discuss and debate literature in a word form. If it's written work, it's game. It feels so good to say that, and I'm so happy I was able to do that. um, I read the book, Invisible Life, of Addie LaRue, and what a book. It was really dense, thick, but I borrowed it from my local library, and wow. There's a lot, flat out, it started off a little slow, I'll admit, but as you keep reading, um, it becomes something you can't put down until 4 in the morning, and then you realize you got to go to work the next day. It's like, I only have 5 hours of sleep left. That's it. Read 10 more chapters. Really, really well thought out. Um, but I'll give you a little bit of my take on it. Um, just so you know, way off the top of the bat, this is expect spoilers. Um, a woman, she's about 22, 23 years old. Her name's Addie LaRue, and she's to be married. They're in this town called Valon. Beautiful, picturesque, almost like out of a picture book for children, like myself. And she grows up, and she's, coming of age. Her father, he's a carpenter, whittler. He whittles things. Mom, she's, stay at home. This is now it's the 1700s. Keep that in mind. When she gets older, she's to wed, and she doesn't really have a connection with the person that she wants to go out. She's going to be wed. That she's being basically forced into marriage. Um, she becomes desperate. So now I'm going to back up a little bit. There was an old woman in the town, this little town called Villan, who would pray to the gods. And she was kind of like the wise elder. People disregarded her. They would go to church instead. And, because God's been around a lot longer, this woman, Estelle, Madeline kind of grew had a liking to her. She'd play in the garden with her and whatnot. And Estelle would pray to other gods. She said, I know about God with a capital G, but all these other gods, And she told her, never pray to them after night, or after, as soon as it's dark. Don't pray to them anymore. Going back to the wedding. Addie wants no part of it. She does not want to be married. She books it. They start going after her in the woods. She finally finds a place where she can kneel down. Adrenaline's pumping. Everything's going. And she just says, she takes a little gift. You gotta bribe these gods in a way. You gotta give them little gifts. And she had a little wooden ring that I think her father made her. I'm not, but anyway, go with it. She finally broke down and said, I just want to live well. And then she realizes, sugar, honey, iced tea, what did I just do? The mist, the darkness, takes human form and grants the wish. And to the T. This is what was a childhood imagination, a childhood friend that she would draw. When Adeline was 9, she begged her father to take her to the market. So they would go to the market, and she would draw, and she would write, and that's how she basically got her education. There's no, usually back then people were homeschooled, or they would go to one schoolhouse. Or the church would do it. But like I said, I'm jumping around a bit. So she is basically cursed now, and this darkness she lives for 300 years. Nobody can remember her though. she lives through all the wars. She lives through everything, pretty much. Fast forward to 2013, 2014. That's when the story is taking place. Again, the author goes back and forth, and I liked it, but I didn't like it. I thought it was a little excessive at times, but you get a backstory each time. Um, really, really good book. This is when I really start getting more and more interested. So little by little, she ends up in France. She just walks. She's walking. There's no cars at this time, obviously. Nobody can remember her though. That's part of the curse. She's living, but she's not making an impression. That's hence the title. And all throughout history, basically, all throughout Civil War, World War One, World War, all these, the 60s, the 70s, all that. She saw all that. She's still a young 23-year-old. She's learned over this decades to learn how to be swift with her hands. How do you go to live for 300 years and not be hungry? Well, she was starving. If she ever got a cut or a bruise or a bump or anything like that, the pain would last, the scar would be there, and then it would just heal. It'd be gone. So she basically left no mark on this planet. 2014 rolls around. She's in a bookstore. The gentleman who runs it, he's kind of like one of those. I don't know how else to say it. He was working on his doctorate, and he was told, "There's a door. Your heart's not in it. Why waste our time?" So he basically, I don't know. It's just I'm filling in what I remember here about this character, and he works in the bookshop and the bookstore. Bookshop. It's not a library. There's another person. She's working on her doctoral classes and work, and there's like the ongoing joke. Hey, her name's Beatrice. It's not a library. He would keep telling me that because she would take the books, look at them, and I guess critique them, and put them back on the shelf, and she wouldn't really buy anything. So they're friends, but along comes Adeline, and this is now like I said, we're in New York City. The year is 2014, and again, she's 23 years old. Imagine being 23 for 300 years and getting away with everything. Nice. Anyway, the crux now is she hears the words that she has never heard in those 300 years. First, she takes a book. I forgot what the title was. It's the tip of my tongue, but I can't remember. But it's in Latin. She takes it. She's going to steal it and go sell it for money to eat. The hunger, all throughout these years, she was always hungry. And like I said earlier, if she would have cut her hand off, it'd probably grow back. I mean, she left no impression. He catches her in the act. He says, "Stop! What are you doing? Give me the book." And he confronts her. And she makes up an excuse like, "Oh, well, I was trying to return this." And he said, No. He sees through it and he says, "Stop." He says, "I remember you." And I'm thinking to myself, oh, And then, of course, it goes on. I remember you. The author repeated several, just wonderful, wonderful work. And the sentence would be written like, "He remembered me. I was remembered. Remembered is so good," or things like that. Almost like a little poetry, like a few lines. And I thought that was honestly brilliant. Wrapping up, they become friends. This darkness now has been haunting her. They have like an anniversary every year, and then it becomes less and less frequent. Turns out Henry, the bookstore, he lets her go, and then they become friends. turns out he had made a deal a year before with the same entity. This entity will call is the name of is Luck, LUC. Starts off as a cruel, menacing, I don't know how else to say it, jacket. Always has the answer and wants Addie to surrender, and he will take away all of the pain and suffering, etc. Well, Addie doesn't surrender. She doesn't hand over her life, or doesn't surrender. So she keeps living. And this darkness, Luck, tries to, over time, kind of near the end, they become almost like, this is the only one that remembers me, though. This is before she met Henry, of course, centuries later. And they become like a couple that hate each other. They're forced into this relationship that there's no way out of it. So, there's some spicy moments in there. She becomes able to put up with, and actually they become friends. They like each other. So it really makes your head like do a 180. But when she meets Henry, things start to change, and the rest is history. I mean, I could go on for hours more, and I'm not going to do that. I'm going to just wrap it up here and say this is something that, of course, I've said this millions of times before. Highly recommend reading it. It's a great fantasy, historical, and it hits home in some places. It can hit home, because you can say to yourself, I said to myself a few times, I've been there. I felt like that. I felt that I wasn't remembered, or I haven't made an impression, even though I tried to, or other scenarios. And I just thought it was a great, great book. But you have to read this. I can't explain everything to you all now, but it does end beautifully. Henry, like I said, he made a deal with Luck, so but there's drama there too, and again, like I said, you have to read it. I had to bring it back because I was getting bills from my own workplace. I work in the library. For those of you who probably figured it out by now, so I had to literally turn it back in and stop checking it out for a while. So, just really, really phenomenal book, and I'm gonna give it a 10 out of 10. I highly recommend it, and I'm gonna go try not to knock over that bowl of soup over there.